welcome back to our crash course video, the coolest one out there. Today, we are going to be discussing Islam. A few extremely important things that you need to know about Islam is that Islam is a religion and is not a country, and it is an empire that spread across time and regions to become what it is today.
There are many fun things to learn about Islam. It is a religion and empire. Let's start with how the religion began. This religion started out by a young man named Muhammad. Muhammad received visions by an angel named Gabriel. Muhammad was born in Mecca around 570 AD. He became a prophet and started to preach about the word of God, or Allah. This was just the beginning of this gigantic religion.
After Muhammad's death, it was said that someone needed to take Muhammad's place. The people who did were called caliphs. The first four are the most important. They are known as the rightly guided caliphs because they were Muhammad's close relatives. They expanded the Islamic empire by military force and also united the Arabian Peninsula using the newfound religion of Islam.
Now that we've gone over the basics, let's have my good friend Javen take it away.
As my colleagues just told you, the first four caliphs united the Arabian Peninsula using the religion of Islam. Many large cities was located in this peninsula. Mecca was right smack dab in the middle, and next to it was Medina. Under these two major cities was the Arabian Desert, and above them were Basra and Rhodesia. The Tigris and Euphrates River served as an excellent source of water and gave rich soil to crops.
Mecca before Islam was quite different. For one thing, the Arabian Peninsula was very diverse. The main reason, though, was that there were a lot of idols, and they all consisted mainly in the Kaaba, which is a building thought to be created by Abraham. A lot of traders needed the Kaaba since people went to pray there, and they paid money to travel to Mecca.
It is time to get down to the nit and grit of the Islamic Empire. The 5 pillars. These are the obligations that Muslims must satisfy to live a good and responsible life and to bring them closer to God. Shahada means faith, which makes you have to recite the phrase, "There is one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet" 3 times to a mosque priest or a witness.
The second pillar of Islam is Salah, or prayer. Muslims are required to pray 5 times a day during sunrise, noon, afternoon, sunset, and before bed. It is required of Muslims to perform Shahada.
Zakat is the third pillar of Islam. It translates to charity. It has the Muslim people donate 2.5% of their yearly income to orphans, poorest of the poor families, and those who, quote unquote, working for God. Mr. Nolito, what about the fourth pillar of Islam? Didn't you say there was 5?
Well, Joshua, to answer your question, Psalm, or fasting, is the 4th pillar of Islam. This requires Muslims not to eat or drink from sunrise to sunset in the holy month of Ramadan. This lasts for 29 days, and this shows how the poor without food feel.
The 5th and final pillar is Hajj. Hajj is a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Mecca where you go on a pilgrimage in Mecca. The poor, sick, and homeless are excluded from this. When you are in Mecca, you go on a trip or pilgrimage around Mecca to visit all the places that Muhammad received his visions and all the places Muhammad visited.
As we said before, there are 4 main caliphs. They are Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. They spread Islam by using military force. Abu Bakr led military force against the Arabs of the south, thus uniting the Arabian Peninsula. Umar gained resources and goods while still spreading the religion. I guess guys can multitask after all.
The third caliph's name was Uthman. He was the first Umayyad clan leader. He unified the empire under one holy book called the Quran, or Quran. But provinces started to feel mistreated because he gave high posts to his relatives and thus led to rebellion, and hence his death. Yep, guys, still not too smart.
All of them did this except for Ali, who reluctantly became a caliph. He attempted to stop the civil war, but failed. His rule did not last long because people challenged it, and he got assassinated.
This is a little reenactment of how Ali took his final breath. Ali is a terrible caliph.
I agree.
He's trying to stop this civil war, but we must end it tonight.
Is that a knife?
Yes,
Okay, what do you want me to do with it?
you must.
Slit his throat? Okay, I'll do that for you.
Thank you.
Islamic Empire made many cultural achievements. For example, Islamic doctors were the first to add emergency treatment and isolation areas to hospitals to prevent the healthy from getting sick. Scientists studied the movements of planets and stars, including the rotation of the Earth. They took the numbering system from the Indians and developed the concept of zero. The empire added many helpful inventions that benefits the world today.
There are many fun facts about the Islamic Empire
So many.
and religion. Aren't there, Ethan?
Yeah, I know. There's so many.
The first is about an astrolabe. An astrolabe is a tool that Muslims use to measure where they are and how to get home. They use this by measuring from the distance of the stars to where they were, according on the planet's rotation. Ethan, what's another fun fact?
Another fun fact is basically the Bible of Muslims, but that's not really the right logic.
What's it called?
It's called the Quran. The Quran is the holy book of Muslims that was made official by Uthman, the third caliph, and spread around. But the book is not like the Bible. It was not made by Muhammad. It was made by his followers who listened to what he was saying and wrote it down all in one book.
Did you know one of the biggest battles in the Muslim history was the Battle of Tours?
Wow, really?
Yeah. So basically, the Muslims and the Europeans went to war because they wanted land. But then the Muslims didn't win at first, so they had to try more tactics. But if the Muslims didn't win, which they did, then most of America would have been a Muslim.
Nice. Also, did you know that a mosque is a holy place of worship?
No way!
I know. And also, a minaret is usually a tall, slender building attached to a mosque and
Wow.
attached with a balcony.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah. They usually use the mosque to say their prayers.
Welcome back to the recap round. It's time to talk about the Islamic Empire. You already know this rap will be fire. We're gonna review the Islamic nation and the events leading up to its creation, how it never stopped with hesitation, and it gave people a sense of salvation. This empire is very strong, but it also lasted very long. Muhammad founded Islam. He didn't even have a mom. He grew up kind of sad because he grew up with his granddad. The angel came from the sky above. He told Muhammad with lots of love, you need to listen to the will of God. Then Muhammad began to nod. Gonna review the Islamic nation and the events leading up to its creation, how it never stopped with hesitation, and it gave people a sense of salvation. Muhammad traveled far and wide and talked about Islam before he died. The first 4 caliphs took his place and began to bring up Islam with good grace. Keep going. There are 5 pillars that you must follow. In fasting, there's no food that you can swallow. Faith is the first of these steps, and Hajj is the last, giving you no preps. Hajj is the pilgrimage to the holy city, but to go charity might look down on you with pity. We're gonna review the Islamic nation and the events leading up to its creation, how it never stopped with hesitation, and it gave people a sense of salvation. There were idols in Mecca before Islam. This got travelers to come and get some. They came and walked around the cube. This might even be on YouTube. Scientists studied the Earth's rotation. They may even be the best in the nation. Muslims also did some architecture, but you may not have learned this in your lecture. It is time for us to end the song, but we know it was a little long. But we hope you gained at least some knowledge, because this will help you go to college. Thank you for watching our crash course video. Tune in next week to learn about the ancient rice farmer ninjas. Welcome back to the recap rap. It's time to talk about the Islamic Empire. You already know this rap will be fire. We're gonna review the Islamic nation and the events leading up to its creation and how it never stopped with hesitation and it gave people a sense of salvation. This empire is very strong, but it also lasted very long. Muhammad founded Islam. He didn't even have a mom. He grew up kind of sad because he grew up with his granddad. The angel came from the sky above. He told Muhammad,
It is time to get down to the nit and grit of the Islamic Empire. The 5 pillars. These are the obligations that Muslims must satisfy to live a good and responsible life and to bring them closer to God.
let's go.
Yeah,
3,
it is.
2, 1.
It is time to get down to the nit
No, I
and grit.
restart.
Go. It is time to get down to the nit and grit of the Islamic Empire. The 5 pillars. These are the obligations that Muslims must satisfy to live a good and responsible life and to bring them closer to God. One go.
3, 2, 1.
It is time to get down to the nit and grit of the Islamic Empire. The 5 pillars. These are the obligations that Muslims must satisfy to live a good and responsible life and to bring them closer to God. The first pillar, Shahada, means faith. It makes you recite the phrase, there is one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet 3 times to a mosque restart. Go. It is time to get down to the nit and grit of the Islamic Empire. Now, today we're going to be discussing Islam. A few extremely important things that you need to know about Islam is that it's a religion, it's not a country, and it's an empire that spread across the region to become what it is today. Josh?
There are many things to learn about the wonderful empire of Islam. Let's start with how the religion began. The religion started out by a young man named Muhammad. He received his visions by an angel named Gabriel. 1 second, let me find my place here. Muhammad was born in Mecca around 570 AD. He became a prophet and started to preach. Amen, brother.
After Muhammad's death, it was said that someone needed to take Muhammad's place. The people who did were called caliphs. The first 4 were the most important they are. They are known as the rightly guided caliphs because they're Muhammad's closest, and they expanded the Islamic Empire by military force and also reunited the Arabian Peninsula using the newfound religion of Islam.
Now that we have gone over the basics, let's let our friend Javen take it away.